This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Mackin. Joining me, as always, my cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Man, cuz, I haven't looked forward to a podcast like this in a long time. Free agency frenzy, the NCAA Tournament. Look, man, sometimes we do take things for granted, and last year when March Madness got canceled, I think everybody was in a little bit of shock. We were just kind of wondering how's the sports world going to react to everything? When's everything going to come back? And to miss March Madness was really a big hole in the sports calendar. Now to have it back, I was definitely excited on Selection Sunday. I was all over Twitter just seeing what people's reaction was. I'm not gonna lie to anybody. You know, here, full disclosure, when 3 brackets showed up and the Spartans weren't in it, I was pumping my chest out like, yeah, we're gonna make it. But deep down in my little tummy, I was like, holy shit, 68 teams could come on this board and the Spartans won't be on it. I was gripping just a little bit, as evidenced by me chomping on a bunch of gum, nervously like, when are the Spartans gonna get in? But I'm not gonna lie either. The playing game is the ultimate disrespect, and they got to defeat UCLA tonight. They cannot, absolutely in no shape or form, lose to a team that's playing that bad and still call it a legit entry. No doubt.
I don't know how you can find it as or deem it disrespect. This was a team I wasn't even sure was going to make it. And if they did get in, they were right where I thought they were going to be. They were going to be one of the last 4 teams in. They were the worst of the last 4 teams in by their cumulative ranking. The only reason they got in is because they did have big wins against a team like Illinois, a big win against a team like Michigan down the stretch. They had a couple big wins in the middle of the season, and that's what was able to kind of help them limp in to one of those last 4 seedings. Now they do have to play a playing game, and I think it's fantastic. I love it. I think it's great. Like, it gives you a reason as a sports fan to now tune in and watch this game, especially if you're from this area, right? If you're from the Metro Detroit area or you're a Michigan State fan, this gives you all the reason to turn your TV on and to watch this game. They're playing UCLA. It's going to be a big game. This is all the reason in the world why Michigan State gets put in as one of the last 4 over a team like Louisville, or insert one of the first 4 outs. It's because they have a cachet. They're a name brand. Of course, what is it? Izzo's going for what, 23 years in the tournament? Is that what it is?
It's 23.
Yeah. 23 years. There you go. You knew that if the committee had its chance, they weren't going to break that because Coach K just lost his, I think it's 22 years, I think is his streak. And that just fell apart with Duke waving the white flag, because Duke's been awful this year. And instead of having the embarrassment not getting selected or having the embarrassment of having to be one of the last 4 in or one of the last 4 outs, they just said, you know what, we're not even going to play in the ACC tournament. Our season's done. Look, man, this is right where I thought they would be. I think we're going to have a great game, though. I think it's going to be fantastic. I mean, how can you not be pumped up about this?
Because of the fact that maybe you could make an argument they could be seated higher, or they could be seated in a situation in which they're the 12th seed and not have to play in the playing game, just get automatically in. Because of the fact that you have victories over, and you're one of the clubs that has 3 AP top 5 wins. No other team has that. So you would think that just based on cachet.
Well, look at your bad losses, though.
Bad losses
you can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. It's all encompassing. So you do have some really big wins. Like, you have really big wins. Like, Illinois is the number 1 overall seed in this whole damn thing, right? The Big Ten champs, co-Big Ten champs, according to you, the Big Ten champs that never were. They're the number 1 overall seed. Michigan, being the Big Ten regular season champs, are number 1 seed, but they were the 4th number 1 seed. So those right there, those are 2 monster victories that MSU has on its resume. But then go back and look at how they got dismantled by Rutgers. Look at how they ended up losing to, I think they ended up losing to Minnesota. There were games that they should have won that they were absolutely shellacked in, So it's all encompassing. It can't just be like, look at these, but ignore all of that. Do you know what I'm saying? You can't look at one side of the ledger. That's all I'm saying.
Well, how concerned are you now with Michigan? Because it's been said, Isaiah Livers came out and said, unfortunately, I know the hype was there when he originally came out and said, don't count me out. But now he officially said it's probably going to take a miracle to see Isaiah Livers. And you saw the impact right away. A loss to Ohio State, which, in my opinion, I felt like in the name of fairness and objectiveness, Juwan Howard did not maybe draw up the best play call to have his point guard that wasn't thriving at the three-point line dribble, take the clock all the way down and jack up a really awful shot, and then to come out and say that was what you were looking for. If you're the 7'1" monster and you're like, I could draw a foul, I could maybe potentially get the rebound if you shoot it earlier in the clock. So that's a little bit of a wart there on Juwan Howard's record to let Illinois win the Big Ten. Very bad news.
Yeah, look, I was full steam ahead with this team. I bought into them. Middle of the season, I was saying, hey, Final Four or bust. At this point, you do kind of have to, I think, lower your expectations. Things have to adjust. This is a big injury by Isaiah Livers, and this team showed you stuff as the season wore along, right? And what I mean by that is this is probably one of the deeper teams in the tournament. This is a team that doesn't have one star. Isaiah Livers is probably the closest thing you have to being that guy who just distances himself from the rest of the roster. But this is a collection of guys who can have different guys getting it done on different nights. So there is reason to be positive. There is reason to still be hopeful if you're a Michigan fan. Losing Isaiah Livers is a huge loss, though. Like it hurts. Like you can't deny it. You can't lie about it. It's going to hurt. And I think it's going to maybe take how far they could go. It's going to take it back a little bit. It has to. You have to walk it back. So I was Final Four or bust. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. And now you kind of have to walk it back in obviously, it can't be that. And it's just because you're losing such an integral part of the puzzle. A guy who really thrived in Juwan Howard's offense, a guy who has been a big money player for you, a guy who's been there, done that. He's been the guy when you needed a big shot with 1 second left on the clock. He's been the steadying hand. He's been the guy who's nailed that for you. Now you lose him. You have to go to a pretty young group of guys to try to get this done, and the spotlight's on them. I mean, the spotlight's been on them for the later half of the season, but the spotlight is really on them right now. And if you look at kind of the way they've played towards the back end of the Big Ten season, it really hasn't been great. There's been a little bit of faltering there. You end up losing a game that you really should have won against Ohio State. Ohio State was, I think, playing their third game in 3 nights, and they were pretty beat up. They just got done going up against a really physical, I think it was it Maryland? I think it was Minnesota who they went up against, and Minnesota beat them up pretty good and took them to overtime. So you ended up getting a team that didn't have the freshest legs and still were able to beat you. Now, you look at their record down the stretch here. They're basically 500. They ended up beating Michigan State, lost to Michigan State, beat Maryland in a game that was ugly, in a game that was really, really ugly. Juwan Howard loses is cool. I love that. I thought that was great. I thought the players rallied behind that. But again, it was an ugly, ugly win. And then you end up losing to Ohio State. So this isn't the same Michigan team that was rattling off wins. You can even take it back a whole other week and you lose to Illinois, and then you end up beating Michigan State. So, I mean, you've got 3 losses in your last 5 games. This is a team that has to kind of figure it out and has to rebound. And I think you've got a team here that, again, has the experience, doesn't necessarily have a big name, but has guys that can get the job done. If you being fair and objective, and I use fair and objective with finger quotes, and I'm being sarcastic when I say it because I know you're neither fair nor objective. How bad of an injury do you think this is for Michigan?
It's devastating because you don't have your full resources. I think the team with Isaiah Livers, with a player of that capability, I think gives the team a spark. And what's unfortunate is Michigan's coming into the tournament not playing well. How often do you see a team come into the big dance not playing their best basketball and then have a nice run? It just doesn't happen all that often. You kind of want to be peaking at the right time, like a Gonzaga, like a Illinois, like Ohio State. You want to be playing confident basketball. And it has to kind of, for the Michigan players, kind of has to, it's either going to go two ways. Either a bunch of people are going to step up, either you're going to have a couple unsung heroes, or you're potentially going to have a first weekend exit or an early exit. And nationally, Michigan is the number one seed that pundits don't believe in the most. Mm-hmm. Everybody has
absolutely.
It sucks because it's not really the true representation of the team. I love to see it. I think it's great because of the fact that, whenever Michigan can struggle, I'm all aboard to shovel the dirt into the grave. And hey, I'm hoping for potentially some big games and some big moments. And Juwan Howard maybe can prove himself too. There's opportunity when there's controversy on the line, when there's some adversity. If he can overcome it, I think it's great, and it would provide some interesting storylines. I think it's great that Michigan and Michigan State are in the same bracket, in the same region, and I'm hoping that both teams have an opportunity to play their best. That's all you can ask for, and it's unfortunate just for Michigan because of the fact that they had an opportunity to make a deep run. When you look at this tournament, cause it's open, but right now the odds-on favorite is everybody mostly has, I think, that wants to have a winning bracket. They got Gonzaga on one side, Illinois on the other, with either Illinois or Gonzaga winning it. How are you seeing it shake out? Because I think, why not go for the storyline? Gonzaga played Illinois and won by fairly comfortable margin. So I'm of the opinion that it's Gonzaga's tournament to lose.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think it would be a real interesting story if you did have Michigan playing Illinois for all the marbles, and we could really settle this thing once and for all. But I don't think Michigan gets there. So when you kind of look at everything and at first glance, I think you go with Illinois. You end up going with Gonzaga. Gonzaga is one of the first teams to go wire to wire. Like from the beginning of the year, they were the number one seed. And now we're here at tournament selection committee time, and they're still the number one seed. And now going into the first weekend, they're the number one seed. They haven't lost a game all year. So, look, I think it's Gonzaga's tournament to lose. And if they do lose to anybody, it could be Illinois. Illinois is a really, really, really good team. I know I was kind of talking a lot of smack about them last week when you brought up a thing with Michigan and Illinois being co-champs of the Big Ten, but Illinois is a really, really good team. You have to give them respect. They are an absolutely solid team. Like there's really no holes on that team, no real weakness. So I think when you pencil it all in and you kind of get down to your Final Four, the last two that you'll have standing will probably be Gonzaga and Illinois. Where do you think Michigan State ends up? We've kind of talked about the whole tournament as a whole here, but let's kind of spin it local. And where do you see Michigan State making it? And we've already talked about the injury to Isaiah Livers. Where does that end up having them finish in your estimation?
I have no idea because they could lose the play-in game. They could lose to Texas. I think Texas in their guard play really outshines Michigan State in a lot of ways. If they can get to Texas and they win a game, I think they have an opportunity. BYU scares me because of how well they played and how well they can handle business. So I don't know. They could lose game one, Thursday, Saturday, Monday. If they can get to Texas, that'd be awesome.
See, I don't think they make it out of the first weekend. I think they get past UCLA. BYU's got a really good team. Like, don't sleep on BYU. If for some reason they're able to figure something out, because Izzo is great on day two, and this would technically be a day two. BYU will. I think if they win, it'll be a close one for them to get by BYU. Otherwise, BYU is smashing them. And then I don't think they get by Texas if for some reason they're able to get past BYU. So I don't have Michigan State making it very far at all. Winning the play-in game, and really and truly that's about it. As far as Michigan goes, Michigan's got a couple roadblocks that could really trip them up and really hem them up on their way to what could be a Final Four bid. Once they get past whoever the winner is of Montana State and in Texas Southern. Once you get past the winner of that, you have to go up against a really good LSU team. And that LSU team is not a team to be slept on. Once you get past them, you then have to go up against a really strong Florida State team. So again, Michigan has a few roadblocks before they could ever possibly match up against Michigan State if Michigan State's lucky enough to make it there, or match up against who I think will probably be the likely candidate coming out of this bracket in Alabama. Alabama has played some really, really good basketball this year. They're absolutely solid. They could have been a potential number 1 seed. Michigan ended up getting it just because I think Michigan was so strong in the middle of the season, but Alabama was pretty much just as strong. I believe they ended up winning the SEC tournament. So this is a really, really good basketball team that definitely shouldn't be slept on either. So Michigan's got a bit of a tough road ahead of it. And look, I just named 3 teams that are going to cause them fits in LSU, Florida State, and then possibly Alabama. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I think in the end, I don't see Michigan State making it past the first weekend. I do see Michigan making it to the Elite Eight. I don't really see them making it any further than that. Where do you have Michigan falling?
I think they get to the Sweet 16. I think that they have an opportunity.
That's fair.
I think they have an opportunity to win the first 2 games and to do really well. I think that they're going to do really well with the opportunity to face adversity. Juwan Howard getting his team into the tournament. I think they have an opportunity to feature a big man and to handle his business. I think that if you have the opportunity to feature Hunter Dickinson, I think you have to do it. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think you have to lean on him heavily just because of what you're rolling into the tournament with, right?
Right.
I mean, you're dealing with injuries. You're losing probably one of your best on-ball and off-ball players in Isaiah Livers. You're losing one of your most deadly shots, whether it be beyond the arc or just making and creating his own. So you've got to find a way to kind of adjust, and I think your offense has to adjust to that. So why not force feed the big man? Get the ball down low. Let him cause damage. Let him cause havoc. If you end up winning a game at the stripe, who the hell cares? You still won the game. You know what I'm saying? So I think you have to. You gotta put your team in the best spot to win. And I think the best way to do that is defeat Hunter Dickinson. Like just get the big man the ball and let him just cause damage and cause havoc. I just don't. I think force feeding a known commodity and kind of taking the ball out of a young point guard's hands is probably the best bet for this team to at least survive and to kind of get their foothold. I think once you get that first win and you get into the second game and you get a little bit of a taste there, and if you can get past there, I think what happens is you just kind of hit your stride and you understand what's going on, right? Again, this is a young team. This is a really young team. Again, young coach in Juwan Howard. This is one of those things where I think there's a bit of a learning curve for some of these guys. So getting into the tournament, getting a couple games underneath your belt, and getting some confidence. Confidence breeds success, and I think they have a good shot once they get a couple games underneath their belt and they kind of start feeling themselves a little bit.
Oh, man. How into the tournament, how excited, how pumped are you that this is going to take place?
I'm excited, but it's not, I don't know. I think not having it last year, it just kind of takes a little bit of that luster off. Like that's not to say anything bad about the tournament. It's just, I don't know, man. Like I'm excited for it, but I got to work, and it's not one of those things where I can like take the whole day to watch basketball games. Like last year, this would have been perfect. Last year, this would have been great because we just had, last year at this time, we just had COVID shutdowns at work. On 3/16, the governor shut down all the gyms. So I was basically sitting at home, and I could have watched all of this. Could have watched all of it. And instead, I'll be at my new job, which is great because I'm making way more money and I'm way happier and less stressed. But I don't know. It'll be on in the background. It'll be on at work. So when I go to take a piss break, I'll get caught up in the TV. But it's just going to be something that's there. I mean, like, I'll be honest with you. We put out our bracket for the Detroit Sports Podcast Network for everybody to join in and to take part in it. And I released one for our family. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't even sat down to fill one out yet.
Right.
I mean, that's just kind of where it's at for me. Just like, I have to do this. I don't necessarily want to do this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's not something that's top of mind. I think that the gambling aspect is going to make it a lot more interesting. So we'll see if many more people are into it and take it more seriously. So we'll see. it's a fascinating look at how everything's been going. So I'm fascinated to see how people respond to it, if there's going to be a, one shining moment, big, I love seeing the comebacks and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see how the tournament shakes out, if there's going to be upsets, because I think there's a chance this tournament could be as wild as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too, and I think you brought up a really good point, and you do a fantastic podcast with one of your good friends where you talk about sports betting, and I think the sports betting aspect of it, especially here locally, now that we have the apps and you can basically bet on any game you want, you can bet on anything you want in the game. I think that adds a level of intrigue, and I think it makes it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see. I definitely, and the challenging part is tonight, March 18th, it's going to be real tough for me to try to stay up, because I've been hitting a real good schedule, getting to bed like at 10:45, 11 p.m., waking up at 5:45, 6, and it's a good schedule for me. And I'm going to try my darndest to cheer on these Spartans and to get that W, and try to stay up for the press conference, as well as I like to be part of the media, see if I can get in a good question this go around. So we shall see. Because I just want to, tell everybody and thank them for listening to the podcast, subscribing. Anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast, please go and hit Detroit Sports Podcast. And when you hit that subscribe button, our daily content finds you. And if you start to look around the landscape of the sports world, you're seeing a lot of podcasts. You're seeing a lot of people getting into the mix. Adam and I knew back in 2013, this was the medium. This was the thing to jump into. And it's provided us a great outlet to communicate via sports. Probably saved Adam and I a bunch of money, because we would be doing this and just shooting the breeze at bars and stuff, and all we do is just talk like how we would, but record it via the podcast. And we thank you for making us part of the Detroit sports scene. So make sure you subscribe, find all the daily content each and every day here at the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Because I thought I was prepared for free agency frenzy in the NFL, and I don't know if I was living in La La Land going, hey, I'm coming off my birthday, it's a good weekend, la la la, the weather's nice. All of a sudden, Monday hit, and it was like, holy shit, I didn't prepare the right way this year. And I can freely say it. I was like, whoa, I was ready, okay. But I forgot the content that people want to read about is which of our free agents, which the Lions had 18 of them, are leaving and signing, which players across the league are signing and coming and going, which players in the division are coming and going, rumors. I said, I don't remember it being like this in the past few years. And wow, I definitely need to adjust the schedule next year to handle it better. But I'm proud of myself, proud of the fact that we're in the mix. People read the site, they're coming to the podcast, they're engaged with the process. And when you look around the landscape, when you see Lions content and you see me writing about Kyle Pitts, and then 3 weeks later, some other outlets are writing about Kyle Pitts, when you see me writing about Kenny Galladay taking a dip in money and other people follow along, it makes you feel good to be in the mix. And it's something fun, because there are people, and you got to remember, guys, I'm covering the Lions full time with a whole other career. Not to toot my own horn, but toot, 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 toot. It's been fun to do this job and to try to challenge myself. And look, I can be honest. I'm doing this podcast with you, and I just pumped out that Matt Prater left Detroit, and I beat the competitor by literally a minute. That's to the T how good these people are that are doing it, and I have to give them credit because they make me better. The competitors are out there grinding, and this is their passion and stuff. So I'm just in the mix, just trying to go, okay. And I'm going to reveal it here as a tease. April 5th is Monday, the day after Easter. Stay tuned to our Twitter page, because I'll be sharing a big motivator that occurred to me, and it'll be a marker for my work with SI All Lions and things like that. So stay tuned, because you'll see, wow, something fueled this guy's run the last couple years, and I'll share what it was, because I kept it. I can't wait, and I think it's going to happen, so I'm very happy to share it, and I can tease it with everybody, and I can share it now with you. I'll be on the comfy beach of Hilton Head. I'll be on vacation. That Sunday through that week, I'm taking a week off, because my ass is tired, and the kids want my attention. They're on spring break. So free agency frenzy in the NFL wore me out, but the thrill is amazing, and I truly believe the Lions have done a decent job. Obviously, I don't like signing 30-year-old veteran defensive linemen, But when you give up a 7th-round pick, it's basically getting him for free. So the Michael Brockers story was amazing in that Brad Holmes found a guy that he's familiar with, can be a culture guy, and you're not really busting the bank for him. A 7th-round pick is nothing. So while I'm of the opinion tank all the way, but you still have to field a competitive team. But all the way around, I'm happy with how the Lions and Brad Holmes have conducted their business.
Oh, I mean, I think you have to be pumped. The Michael Brockers pickup was absolutely a thing of mastery. You end up giving up a 2023 7th-round pick. So basically a dude who's what, in maybe his sophomore year right now of college, a guy who's maybe seeing some reps but not really any reps, and he'll be like someplace in like the 220s. You got a starting defensive tackle for that? I mean, that's banana boats for me. Like what you have going on there is insane, and I think it was a great move by Brad Holmes to be able to go out there and do that. And look, this draft, I don't think there's a ton of impactful defensive tackles. I don't know if you'll be able to get your hands on one of them, especially with where you're drafting. I think you'll have to do some maneuvering, and with the way Brad Holmes has conducted himself recently, I think that maneuvering is something that will probably play out. We'll have to wait and see, but it's just kind of crazy that you go out and you get a starting D tackle who's not going to really cost you anything this year, and in 2023 didn't really cost you anything either. So I think it's fantastic. I was a little bit surprised, though, at the way this team has handled themselves in free agency, and more specifically with the way that they handled themselves with Romeo Okwara. Okwara was a guy who I think we both wanted them to bring back. We didn't want him to be franchised, but we wanted him to be brought back. And that's exactly what Brad Holmes did. He was able to bring him back. And kind of trying to read the tea leaves before he signed anything, before he put any pen to paper, or before anybody else got signed, I think we estimated a ballpark figure for him right around 10, maybe $11 million. And it comes out that he ends up signing for $13 million annually. It was a 3-year, $39 million contract. And when I initially seen that, I was excited that he signed and that they were able to bring him back, because he was arguably your best defensive player on what was an atrocious defense last year. He was your one bright spot on that defense. The guy, especially when the scheme became a little bit more flexible and they let him play his natural position, or they let him play naturally and didn't try to confine him by whatever Matt Patricia was trying to do with him, he really excelled and really exceeded. And I think Romeo Okwara over the last 2 seasons has really been a good player for this defense. He was a guy who 2-3 years ago, I was like, I really like this pickup by Bob Quinn. Give credit to Bob Quinn for going out and snatching him up. I really like this pickup by Bob Quinn. I think this guy adds some value. He's not expensive. This is a guy who could be part of your defense for a couple years to come. And turns out he's going to be. I just wasn't impressed with the price tag that they got him at. Again, I was excited when they signed him. I was a little taken aback when I seen how much they signed him for, and I was like, whew, definitely no hometown discount there. Were you shocked, or were you surprised at the dollar amount that he was able to garner from Brad Holmes and from the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, I think that $13 million is fair. It's still well below market value for the talent that he displays. But in a rebuild, you need somebody that understands the culture. Obviously, his brother's on the team, so it makes it really likely that he wanted to be here. He's invested, and he's somebody that I think can be a staple on the defensive line. So you got to pay some people. You got to show that you're not a cheap organization. So investing in Romeo Okwara, the thing though that you got to be careful is pundits said that, hey, he only did it for 1 year. That's the thing I'm concerned. That
is the one thing. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So
yeah, I think that is a bit of a cause for pause, because he really only had last year. That was his really only exceptional season. The thing is, I kind of look at a bit of his track record, right? I looked at how he was used. I looked at the amount of downs that he played. And I always thought he was a guy that if you could just let him go, just be like, hey, you have one mission, seek and destroy. Go find the quarterback. I always felt like he would excel and he would succeed. I'm going to be interested to see how he's utilized on this newfangled defense. I mean, we just kind of talked about it, right? They went out and grabbed Michael Brocker. You needed a defensive tackle. You've got Trey Flowers. Now you have Romeo Okwara. Are we in the Lions coaching staff has talked about being flexible, but I could see with the way this is shaping up and with the way this team is currently constructed, I could see us using, and I say us like I play for the team, I could see the Detroit Lions using more of a 3-4 or possibly using some type of a hybrid type defense. In what you're going to end up having is you're going to have a guy like Romeo Okwara. If they go to a 3-4, he's probably going to be one of your outside linebackers, a guy who's just there to put pressure on the quarterback and to blitz heavily. They might run 5 up to the line. If they do go with 4 across, I could see them having a D end on one end, and you could have Romeo Okwara on the other end. The D end who's playing inside of him, almost playing a D tackle position. I could see him being there just for contain and to basically help plug up holes and to basically take off any sort of a double team that might be coming Romeo Okwara's way. So it's going to be interesting because I feel like he is super effective, but he is more of a seek and destroy type of player. You know what I'm saying? You got to put him outside and let him go at the quarterback.
Was there anybody that you wish the Lions would have signed as opposed to what you saw? Because we'll talk about Jamal Williams here in a second.
No, so here's the thing. I really tempered my expectations this season. I really didn't get too invested in who's out there because I knew that they are financially strapped as far as their salary cap goes, right? Like there's not a whole ton you can do. This team isn't going to be any good this next year. This team probably is going to be good in 2 years. You are what you're looking to do is you're looking to sign guys to short-term team-friendly contracts. And not a lot of guys who were just released or not a lot of guys who are entering their first phase of free agency or maybe even their second phase of free agency or even their third phase of free agency. I mean, if you're hitting your third, if this is your third go-round in free agency, you're looking to cash in because this is probably the last time you'll be able to do it. If you're going into your first, you're again looking to cash in because you might not get to do this again. Like a guy like Kenny Golladay, right? This is a guy who the Lions reportedly offered him $19 million and he was like, no, I'm going to go test the free agent market because I think I can get more for myself. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. You wrote a really nice article about it, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out because these guys are trying to cash in as soon as possible, and the Detroit Lions just aren't in a position to be able to do that. Like, if you look at what New England's doing, I find it really, really interesting. Like, New England, whether it just be happen chance that they were able to position themselves in such a way to have so much cap space and so much money to throw at free agents this year, or if it was more of a thing where you have Bill Belichick just kind of reading the tea leaves and knowing what's coming up and being able to look into his crystal ball and make that prediction. But it's one of those things where they've gone out and they spent a ton. They've spent a ton of money. I didn't want the Lions to do that. I don't think they're going to be any good. So save some of that money up. Be bad. I want you to be bad. It gives you the best chance to get the player that you want next year. Be as bad as you can be. And then, in a year or two, go ahead and spend some money. I like the fact that he was signed to only 3 years. Like I like Romeo Okwara again. I thought his salary number was a little bit high for where I thought was acceptable, but I like the fact that it's a 3-year deal, and I like that you're signing guys to 1 and 2 year deals. Like you've got guys coming in, and you've got talented players coming in, but they're not here for a long time. So the way we lay out the game plan, the way we estimate it, just as you're starting to get good, you should be moving these guys on, and everything should just start rolling over, and then your young talent starts to kind of pick up, and you start to go and win with your young talent, and I like that.
Okay. Jamal Williams, I think, is a guy that potentially the Lions may be really appreciative of being on the roster to complement DeAndre Swift. I think that he sat behind Aaron Jones. He was able to just be somebody that was still productive in the time that he was there with Green Bay, has never fumbled, sure-handed, can do everything well. Not supremely talented as evidenced by the contract that he was offered and accepted, but can do everything well. And that's what you're looking for. And number 2, at least it's an upgrade from Adrian Peterson.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I agree 100%. I don't know what you're necessarily expecting out of him, though. Like, I don't know if he's going to be some fantastic standout player. I think he, like you said, he's going to be a compliment back to DeAndre Swift. He's going to be a guy who he's going to give you a couple touches, he's going to score a couple touchdowns, and he's going to run for a couple hundred yards. I don't expect him to light the world on fire. I don't see like a 1,500-yard rusher here. I don't even know if DeAndre Swift is going to give you that much. I hope so, but I don't know. But I think what you have is you have a player who's nice short-term contract. Again, 2 years. I think it's $7.5 million. So not a lot of money, not breaking the bank. He's a guy who's coming here really trying to show other teams what he can do over the next 2 years so he can then cash in. So, again, I like the way these contracts are set up. I like what they've done. I like the players that they've brought in. They've brought in guys who are going to give you something. You know what I'm saying? They're not bringing guys in who are retreads per se. Like, they're not bringing in like Danny Shelton, right? Danny Shelton was a guy who when he was brought here, we were all kind of like, all right, cool. Like, this kind of makes sense. We'll see what happens. Not really sure. And in the end, you have him getting blown out because it was a scheme fit for what Matt Patricia was looking to do. Instead, you're bringing talented guys in who can play multiple fits and can do different things and contribute in different ways. So I do like it. I think it's good. And again, it's team friendly. Everything has to be team friendly right now for this organization. So I think overall, very, very, very impressive.
Very good stuff so far. The next thing that people are going to want to see is maybe by the time this drops, Kenny Galladay will have secured a contract. Like we said, Matt Prater's gone. Jared Davis, I think, was the big surprise. Answer me this.
Yeah,
riddle me this. Can Robert Saleh resurrect the career of somebody that has been perceived as just an average player here in Detroit? Can Robert Saleh be the miracle man? 1 year, $7 million for Jared Davis to go play for the Jets. I think the big surprise, and maybe Agnew too as well, but that was a big surprise seeing Jared Davis leave.
I mean, I think, look, if you look at what happened when they broomed Patricia out, right? And when I talk about heat-seeking missiles, right, guys who just line up, go get the quarterback, that's Jared Davis. Like, Jared Davis wasn't a cover guy. He wasn't a cover guy in Florida. He was a guy who was there to stuff the run, and he was a guy who was there to go hit the quarterback. He wasn't there to drop into coverage and cover a tight end 12 yards downfield. That wasn't his game. He was misused here. He was miscast here. I think he's going to go to the Jets, and I think he'll succeed. I mean, like when you watched him play the last 4 games of the season, did you not see a little bit of a different player, or was it just me? Did I just have blinders on here?
No, you're absolutely right. Role player. I think somebody that maybe can be used a little bit more than he was, but struggles with tackling, struggles with recognizing, and his body size just didn't allow him to do what he needed to do. I mean, this is a tough game, and the speed of the game is just going way, way, way toward the sides of the offense. I mean, running backs are just cruising wide receivers, and he struggled to read and recognize coverages, struggled with tackling. There were so many times he was outmatched that's why he was just right there, utilized so little by the Detroit's defense. I just think they utilized his skill set for what it was. And $7 million, I don't think they're going to get anything out of it. I think he'll be bouncing around pretty soon. Might be on a situation where you might be seeing the end of his career, along with Kerryon Johnson. Might be.
You want to bet a beer on it? You want to bet a beer on it?
Okay, bet a beer.
I'll bet you a beer that he ends up with 7 sacks this next season.
Jared Davis, 7 sacks?
7 sacks.
All right, he said it.
I'll bet you a beer.
Fist bump. Locked in. Yeah, I'm getting a beer. Coors Light Tall, baby. I'm going to hold you to that one. I'm going to get that one. That's a free one. Oh, I'm tasting it now. I'm getting 7 sacks. You must be wanting to pay me for a beer. Hell yeah. 7 sacks. Hey, we'll see what happens. But free agency.
Look, man, whatever
crazy.
I got to do to get you out of the house, right?
Right.
To see you and have fun with you and sit down with you.
Get me
so
out
like if I got to lose a bet and bet you a beer.
That's right.
We'll do it.
The troll cave, man. It's like, look, even the shit that I think I don't want to write about. I mean, people are writing about this. Look, as we're recording this, report Kenny Galladay receives 1-year prove-it offer from Bengals. Will visit Giants. People are literally, if I think it, people are writing it. They're writing everything. It's like Kenny Galladay gets considered. Write it. It's like, no. I'm blessed. I do want to say this, which is a blessing, is that being first is great. But because of the fact that we've built an audience through the podcast and filtered it now with SI All Lions, I don't have to be. I choose to be to try to compete, get in the mix with all these young whippersnappers, and try to see where I fit in. but there's an audience there that just every article is read by X amount of people, and I'm grateful for that. Every podcast is listened to X amount of people, and to do interviews, to have people message, and to talk football. I mean, what better thing to do than to talk sports, review what the Lions are doing, have interviews, figure out what's going on in the world of the Detroit sports landscape. And you can do all that regularly, daily, at Detroit Podcast. And make sure you follow Adam at Adam RSTROZ. Get in the mix. We read it all. Good stuff, bad stuff, trolling, not trolling. The fair and objective Doc will get in the mix and give you his honest and fair opinion all day long. And I appreciate those that follow us each and every single day here on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Great podcast, sir. Look forward for more great content, more great podcasts as we progress here in free agency and the upcoming NFL Draft, NCAA Tournament. It's March Madness, baby. All is great. Thanks, cuz.